Hello everybody. I've got a computer in front of me that we're going to look at today. It is a Dell Precision 3630 from 2019. We were given several of these that were retired from another entity, and it's quite interesting that computers this new were retired, considering just how long computers can last in general use these days. So we were given several of these. I've been tasked with getting this one running and reformatting it and preparing it to be deployed somewhere. So we're going to do just that. I haven't powered this on. We haven't powered any of them on. And I have no idea what to expect. All I know is that it's an 8th gen Core i5. I think that means it'll run stupid Windows 11. And yeah, let's see what we've got here. It's got a laptop style optical drive, which is kind of interesting to see. Kind of surprising that it has an optical drive at all. And we've got a headset jack, 2 USB 2 ports, a USB 3 port. I don't know why, I know this is 5 years old, but I don't know why even at this point you were even still including USB 2 ports when USB 3 is backwards compatible. It does have a USB-C port, which is nice, and then this little blanking plate, which doesn't pop out or anything. And we've got big grill. Dell's they've been good about that for, 15 years now, putting lots of airflow on their computers. It's a small little thing, at least as far as desktop computers go. Look at that, we've got a side-mounted case fan that's actually kind of interesting. This might be the CPU fan. And we've got a little look in there. Now these are interesting because despite how new they are, they've got PS2 ports and a serial port. Only video output option is 2 display ports, although we can see where maybe a VGA port would have gone, although this could just as well have been an option for a second serial port. So I do have a DisplayPort to VGA adapter that we'll have to use. And we've got lots of USB, 2.0 and 3.0, and analog speaker jack. And we've got Ethernet. And we've got what might be an ATX standard power supply with a little button that I'm not sure would do. Maybe it's just a power switch. It's got at least the place where expansion cards would go. And it's got a Windows license. Presumably this shipped with Windows 10. Hopefully I can put Windows 11 on it. If I can, I'll just put Windows 10 on it. So interestingly, we've got 2 locks here. I don't know if maybe this one's for the power supply. I'm going to assume this one's for the case, so let's find out. Maybe not. Or maybe this is for the expansion slots. I don't know. Give me a minute, I'll play around and see if we can get inside this thing. Just seeing this panel, which looks like it may be to unlock the case door, so maybe I take that screw out. I'm in. You take out that screw, you pull on this, and then the panel comes off, and we're looking at something that is very unfamiliar to me. And it looks like if we want to get a better look, we do have to... This is like my IBM NetVista. You have to swing the power supply cage out. So that's where you release both of these unlocks. And then it should just... Oh, there we go. One of my locks wasn't quite undone. Ooh, it's almost like the whole computer. Oh, pops out. It's very stiff. This might be a two-handed job, but I think it should just swing out. And there you go. What an interesting design. It's actually very nice once you figure out how it works. It's like my IBM NetVista, but better. And we've got the standard Dell cooler. That seems to spin fine. We've got some RAM. I wonder if that's DDR4. Oh, it must be DDR4. This is a few years newer than my desktop computer, and it uses DDR4. And we've got 3.5-inch drive cages right here. And we have one up here. So you could shove 3 hard drives in this thing, which is kind of nuts. We've got a PCI slot. How funny is that? That's so... The PS2, the serial, and a PCI slot. What a treat on a computer this new. And of course you got the awesome Dell toolless design. Cables are already routed. Good guy Dell is just so good about this, at least on their high-end machines like this. Oh, we've got a fan up there, so we're not wanting for cooling at all. So this fan here is actually the power supply fan, because this is the power supply. And it certainly looks like ATX, but to this day I have a slight distrust of Dell and if they're actually using ATX or if they're just using the physical connectors and the pinout is different. We've got a CR2032 clock battery. We don't appear to have an onboard M2 slot. That font looks an awful lot like the font Asus uses on their motherboards. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Okay, so if I swing this, the computer's so light, I'm just swinging the whole computer around. Let me put this guy back. So right in there, I can see an SSD, and it appears to be made by Micron. Let's see if I can get this guy out. Let's just see what we've got in there. Well, there it is. We've got a Micron 1300 256 gigabyte SATA SSD. It weighs absolutely nothing. And, cool. So I'll put it back in its little cage and stick it back in. And all that we have next is to hook this thing up, power it on. Alright, well I scrounged up only the best peripherals for this powerful business class computer. I've got a keyboard that looks like someone pissed all over it, my childhood Logitech mouse, and a 25-year-old VGA monitor being run through a DisplayPort to VGA converter. Alright, let's power this thing on. Arming the Nugget. And signs of life. And now I'm going to press the power button. And I got nothing. And I'm going to press the power button again. And I got nothing. And I'm going to press it a third time. Why are Dells always like this? Do you want me to hold it? Do I gotta hold it down? Or do I have to press the... Is that it? Oh, I gotta turn my monitor on. I haven't done that yet. Trying again. You just have to press it and then wait. Dells have been like this for, I swear to God, 20 years. How about now? I don't understand. Oh, okay, we got life. Gee, thanks power button for lighting up to let me know that you're turned on. Okay, the clock battery may be dead by the looks of it. So we will run the setup utility. It says preparing to enter setup in very orange font. There we are. Got Dell's nice graphical user interface. Hold on, let me fix my camera. Alright, here we are. So, what have we got here? Manufacture date 10/11/2019. Ownership date 11/05/2019. It's got 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM. Excellent. And it's running in dual channel. What do we got for a CPU? It's a DVD-RW drive. It's got Intel HD graphics. Excellent. We have an i5-8500 at 3 gigahertz. 6 cores! What a sweetheart. So we are running in... Uh-oh. Does this have a BIOS password? Oh, frick. This has a BIOS password. Uh-oh. Thank God, good guy Dell puts a jumper to erase the BIOS passwords. It's the blue jumper on the left, the one that says PW clear. What you do is you pull that jumper, turn on the computer gives you a message that the jumpers are, or that the passwords have been erased. Turn the computer off, put the jumper back on, and you're good to go, hopefully. Alright, so I got the BIOS password reset, I got the BIOS configured. The message that it gave me the first time we booted it up made it seem like the clock battery was dead, so I pulled it and it was actually dead, which is weird on a computer this new, but I changed it. Now we're just going to see if it'll boot. We'll see. It's always interesting for me to see what's on what the owner had installed, you know, what version of Windows, stuff like that. I may have to censor the screen as soon as this boots, but we'll find out, just for my own curiosity, what this boots into. I'm going to guess Windows 10, although it could be Windows 11, but we'll see. Now I've learned that I can feel the fan up here if it's running. It doesn't appear to be running, so I'll hit the power button. Fan's running. And it's already booting. I can see the SSD light flickering. I once again forgot to put my camera into, force it into 130 shutter speed, so hopefully there's not too much flickering. Taking its time. No SSD activity. Oh my god, we got a blue screen of death. Inaccessible boot device. Interesting. Oh, you know what? I set the SATA controller mode to RAID, where maybe it was originally set to AHCI. So let's go into the BIOS and change that back and see if that's it. SATA operation, AHCI, apply. Okay. I'll put it back to RAID mode when I reformat it. You may wonder why I'm not getting you a direct video hookup using my fancy TV equipment, and it's because I've learned that even at 1024 by 768, my fancy TV equipment produces a very fuzzy picture, of course, because it's being converted down to standard definition NTSC video. So we won't use it. Okay, I cannot show you what's on the screen. It would give away the original owner. They've got a very cool background though, and I think that's Windows 10 that it's running. Okay, so I will prepare a Windows 11 installation disk, and we'll reformat this thing. Well, it looks like Windows 11 isn't turning its nose up at this computer for having the audacity of being a whole 5 years old. So I'll let it install and then we'll come back. Oh, how I hate Windows 11. Let me count the ways. One of the biggest ways is that I'm at the screen where it wants me to connect to the internet, and you better believe I don't have internet hooked up, because I don't want to. I can't put a Microsoft account on this thing. It's gonna go in a business, and it's gonna be used for a very specialized task, and it just cannot be attached to a Microsoft account. But there's no way to, unlike Windows 10, where you get a I don't have internet button as long as you're not connected to the internet. That's not an option here, so I just looked it up, and what you do is you press Shift F10 to bring up a command prompt, and you type oob /bypass NRO, and that should do something good. And after it reboots, it asks me the initial questions again, keyboard layout, country, stuff like that, and now I have an I don't have internet button. Why isn't this just default? Like, why? Why did I have to open up a command prompt to do that? Ooh, we got a firmware update. That's kind of the cool thing about UEFI. It kind of integrates with Windows, and Windows actually downloads firmware updates, and then they just install automatically very seamlessly. So, after going into the command line so that I could finish setup without making or attaching a Microsoft account, I'm just updating Windows and de-shitifying it, turning off suggested ads in the start menu and all the other crap that it wants you to use or that it installs and stuff, and just getting rid of all that, slimming it down as best I can. And once I get through all that, we'll come back. I'll install some benchmark software. I don't even know what the graphics in this thing are called, so I'll have to look up and see. I'll have to look at the system properties, see what Intel is calling the graphics that are installed in this thing, and we'll run some benchmarks, see how it compares. I noticed the security icon had a little yellow triangle, so I decided to click on it, see what I might be missing. Well, it's because I'm not signed into a Microsoft account. Enhanced security, how? How does signing in with an account enhance my security? I would dare say the opposite would be true. And you know, I did check, and we're running Windows 11 Pro. And so why? So if a computer is licensed for Pro, then it's probably a business grade computer, something that's going to be used in a business. So why do they think a business computer can necessarily sign into a Microsoft account? Likewise, why is Windows 11 Pro, why was it recommending apps to me before I told it to stop doing that? Like, this is being used in a business. And the computer had a higher price in part because it was licensed for Windows Pro instead of Windows Home. So why did they pay for that license only to still be badgered with sign into an account? Here's some apps you might want. And all the other, we literally can't do the Windows setup unless you know to do a Google search and go into the command prompt to bypass it. It's insanity. I don't want to hate Windows 11, even though it might seem like I do. On the contrary, there's a lot of things to love about Windows 11. It looks gorgeous. I mean, the visual updates they made over Windows 10 are just top-notch in my opinion. They've made a lot of UI enhancements, like integrating tabs into the Windows Explorer. Even Notepad has tabs now. I think Notepad even does an autosave now, or at least you don't lose your work if it crashes or if the power goes out or something. There's so many really nice enhancements made to Windows 11. But with those came so many more just really awful things and decisions that just shouldn't have ever made it to production. First of all, the system requirements, which I think are just absolutely unfair. The almost reliance on having a Microsoft account, which Windows 10 already had quite an issue with that, but at least with Windows 10, you could bypass it without having to have the wherewithal to Google search how to open a command prompt and run a bespoke command so you could bypass it. Even on a Windows Pro licensed machine, the fact that they make you do that for a machine that's going to be used in a business, it's just mind-boggling to me. And then there's things like it's really hard to change default apps sometimes where it wasn't before. The start menu it's so much less useful than the one in Windows 10. Not because of what they updated, but because they fundamentally changed how it works, and it's just so much less useful. The taskbar is less useful than it was in Windows 10. The new context menu either hides functions behind bespoke icons or you need to click an icon to open a second legacy context menu because they've decided to ship the thing without having everything integrated into the new context menu, which is the settings versus control panel thing that we've been battling since 2012 all over again. And then there's, what are they doing with your data? There's an awful lot of controversy around that Microsoft's possibly using your data. They certainly want to collect as much data as you can, unless you go in all the settings and turn off all the switches. There's just so much garbage that if they didn't do it, which they most certainly didn't have to, Windows 11 would be the most wonderful, worthy successor to Windows 10. But unfortunately, this is the path that they've chosen to go down. And it's because, and it's the reason that now, when someone who's not, not loyal to any particular computer platform asks me, should I buy a PC or should I buy a Mac? I recommend Macs now to people. I never would have done that in my entire life, but now I am, because I trust a Macintosh more than I trust Windows 11, and Apple is not breaking the user experience for the hell of it like Microsoft is doing. It sucks, and it's kind of sad, and it's kind of funny. Because this computer's new enough, my desktop computer, because I had to go through a lot of hoops to get Windows 11 running on it, I think it's not even getting all the updates for Windows 11 anymore. In fact, I don't think it's gotten a major revision update ever. So I've never gotten the Copilot thing. This computer just installed the Copilot thing, and I clicked on it, and I clicked on the little 3 dots for a menu, and I went into the settings, and there was no setting to disable it. I had to once again do a Google search. How do you disable Windows Copilot? And then I learned that you had to go into the taskbar settings. Why couldn't I just go in the settings menu of Copilot? I was right there. They could have put it right there. Anyway, I'm rambling. Some people are probably going to think that, I'm just a baby who doesn't like change or whatever. But Windows 11 could have been such a wonderful successor to Windows 10, but it's hard to love it when they've done all this crap to it that a power user, or maybe any user, just has to battle against, and those battles shouldn't have to be fought. So the graphics in this thing are called Intel UHD Graphics 630. I have no idea what it means, but we're about to find out what it compares to. I've got a Passmark performance test ready here, and I'm really interested to see how this compares to my desktop computer, because this thing is 4 years newer than my desktop computer. It's an 8th gen Core i5 versus a 4th gen Core i7. DDR4 RAM in both machines, SSDs in both machines, but the SSD in this is several years newer. So I'm very interested to see how they compare, if this is going to be better, worse, which parts of it are better or worse. So let's find out. And here's our result, and it's actually way worse than I thought it would be. The main score is less than half of my desktop computer. Now, I didn't use this monitor. I actually plugged the computer into that monitor to run the tests, because I know that if you have a monitor less than 1080p for some tests, or even 4K for other tests, your score will be penalized in the 3D graphics test. So I ran the tests on that monitor, same monitor that I ran my desktop computer at. So uh, we have a fair comparison between them. Yeah, it's actually a way lower score, even the CPU mark. I thought maybe the CPU would be better, 4 generations newer CPU, even if it's an i5 versus an i7, but nope, we've got a score of 10,000 and my computer has 13,000. 2D graphics is a little more than half. 3D graphics is many times less than my computer. Memory is just a hair better, and the disk mark is actually almost double. So good SSD in this thing, at least compared to what I have. So disk and memory, it holds up. Everything else, I expected the CPU or the GPU wouldn't score that well. I'm very surprised that the CPU is still a little less than my computer. So I guess my my almost 10-year-old computer, she still got it. And it just reinforces my opinion that the system requirements for Windows 11 is totally unfair, because my computer, which is so much more powerful than this computer, does not support Windows 11. I don't think I'm even getting updates anymore for it. Now that I think of it, at least I'm not getting major updates. But yeah, my computer is faster than this computer, at least in terms of CPU and graphics. And if I threw a good SSD in it, I would probably beat this computer for SSD speed. So, I don't know. Maybe at this point I'm just barking up a tree that nobody cares about anymore. But anyway, that's about all there is to show of this thing. It seems to work fine. Windows 11 installed no problem. I installed everything that this thing's gonna need to for what we're gonna use it for. I installed Firefox. I used to be a Chrome loyalist, but not anymore. Got LibreOffice, OBS Studio, and then some other software to control some robotic cameras that this computer is going to be in charge of. So there you go. It's a nice computer. I really like the nifty way that it opens up and everything swings out of the way. It allows it to be very serviceable, but also quite compact in size. And the fact that it's got PS2 ports and a serial port, it's really cool. But yeah, like every business class Dell machine I've ever used, it's a nice computer. Seems to be a high quality machine. So there you go.